Lesson 14. If you remember, the last time that we were reading this story, Cole was standing with the king and he was thinking about whether he should accept the king's gift of magic and never be able to return back to Earth, or whether he should return back to Earth. So the last sentence that we were on, Cole said forever, but I mean forever. So that means he can never return back forever. The king merely smiled and walked calmly around his courtyard before stopping to rest on a bench, where he sat patiently and watched a small bird hopping around on the ground. Cole thought hard. At home he had never been good at anything, not unless you counted talking the hind leg off a donkey. So this is an expression: when someone talks a lot, we say they talk the hind legs off a donkey. And most people thought that was a curse, not a skill. He could stay here in Darius and learn magic from a king. It was more than most children could dream of. He took a seat next to the king and brought his hands up to his face to help him think clearly. As he did so, the scent of his newly and magically laundered clothing filled his nose. Laundered means washed. Lavender, the scent which reminded him most of his grandma. He thought of his mum and dad, of Liam and Mara, and of Grandma Jenny's sparkling eyes. Could he really leave all that behind without even a goodbye, just to make magical desserts? Cole sighed. So this word sighed shows you that he's a bit sad. I'm sorry, but I have to go home. My family will miss me, and I'll miss them. The king smiled again sagely. This means wisely, sagely. I understand your decision. You must be true to your heart's desire. In that case, my captain, Surla, will organise a carriage for your safe return to the portal. The king snapped his fingers again, and the white wolf, having disposed of the fruit, reappeared at his side. The carriage will take you there directly. Oh, and Cole, he added as the wolf led Cole from the courtyard. If you change your mind, you are always welcome. King Enk's carriage was nearly as sumptuous, this word sumptuous means luxurious, as his study. Deep green velvet seats cushioned Cole on the bumpy ride, and thick curtains offered some protection from the stifling evening air. The oppressive heat had hit him all over as soon as he had left. Althar. Looking at the darkening silent world around him, Cole couldn't find much in common with King Enk's description of Darius. He was eager to get home. What if his parents had been looking for him? Still, as they sped through the sparse forest, Cole couldn't help but wonder, what would it be like to learn real magic, to live in a palace, to be the most brilliant magician of his age? Cole was lost in a daydream when the carriage pulled to an abrupt stop. He jumped out and landed on the cracked ground. The grey horses that were pulling the carriage stamped and tossed their heads. Thank you for the ride. I very much enjoyed my trip into your world, he said to them, and waited for the reply. They simply huffed just as horses did in his own world. The wolf in the driver's seat flicked the reins. So when you are using horses to pull a carriage, or when you're riding a horse, you have reins which go around the horse's head like ropes, and you use them to ride a horse. With a clatter of wheels, the carriage whirled away into the forest. Cole peered through the gloom for the tree with the gap between its roots. He paced around the small clearing, thinking of magic, of lavender, and the comforts of home. He rolled his sleeves and was just wondering if the wolf had brought him to the right place when a voice burst out of the thicket of trees. Get him! So that's the end of this chapter, and it's ended at a very dramatic part with get him. So let's take a look at some questions. What effect does the scent? So the scent means the smell, and lavender is that type of purple flower. It's a very nice smell. What effect does the scent of lavender have on Cole? Why? Read that extract, press pause, and write your answer. Okay, I'm going to read it now. He took a seat next to the king and brought his hands up to his face to help him think clearly. As he did so, the scent of his newly magically laundered clothing filled his nose. lavender, the scent which reminded him most of his grandma. He thought of his mum and dad, of Liam, Mara, and of Grandma Jenny's sparkling eyes. Could he really leave all that behind without even a goodbye, just to make magical desserts? So the effect is it makes Cole think of home. Why? Because lavender is the smell of his gran. She uses lavender soap or wears lavender perfume. So the answer would be, it makes him think of home because the smell reminds him of his grandma. Why is Cole feeling mixed emotions at this part in the story? Mixed emotions is a little bit like what we discussed in one of our previous lessons, which is when you feel torn. You feel two things at the same time. So read that extract and explain why Cole is feeling mixed emotions. Press pause while you do that. Okay, let's read this. He was eager to get home. One of his parents had been looking for him. Still, as they spread through the sparse forest, Cole couldn't help but wonder, what would it be like to learn real magic, to live in a palace, to be the most brilliant magician of his age? He's feeling mixed emotions because, on the one hand, he wants to return home to his family, but on the other hand, he wonders what it would be like to be a powerful magician. Finally, based on this extract, make a prediction about what happens next. I'm going to read this to you before you press pause. Cole peered through the gloom for a tree with the gap between its roots. He paced around the small clearing, thinking of magic, of lavender, and of the comforts of home. He rolled up his sleeves and was just wondering if the wolf had brought him to the right place when a voice burst out of the thicket of trees. Get him. Now actually, before you press pause, to make a prediction is what you think will happen next. So there is no really right or wrong answer as long as you mention why you've made your prediction. So think about these words, get him. So I would like you to write, I think or I believe what will happen. That's actually the end of this lesson. So write your prediction and then I will see you in our next lesson.